Good morning, everyone. Today we're going to read chapter 3 of Where is the Amazon? It is titled Search for the City of Gold. After Christopher Columbus's voyage across the Atlantic in the 1490s, the Spanish wanted to explore more of the New World. Columbus and his crew had reported it was filled with riches, including spices, gemstones, and silver. The reports also included a tale about El Dorado, a city filled with gold and jewels. So there's a picture of Christopher Columbus. According to legends, the city was ruled by a king who covered himself with gold dust every morning. The king would then dive into a sacred lake to wash off the dust. Afterward, he would toss gold back into the water as an offering to the gods. So here's the king that would cover himself in gold. Bands of Spanish soldiers, called conquistadors, were inspired by these wild stories. They set sail for the New World. They wanted to claim the land and the treasure of gold and jewels for themselves. The first Europeans to see the Amazon were led by the Spanish commander Vincent Yanez Pinson in 1492. He had sailed with Christopher Columbus to the West Indies. He was the captain of the Nina. 7 years later, in 1499, he got the Spanish court to pay for him to do more exploring. Pinson began a voyage of his own to the New World. He landed on the shores of Brazil on January 26, 1500. He sailed west along the coast. In time, he and his crew entered the mouth of the Amazon River. The map Pinson had was all wrong. He thought he was in Asia, not South America. Here's a picture of Vincent Pinson. So Pinson first thought the river was the Ganges in India. He named the river Rio Santa Maria de la Mar Dulce, which means River of St. Mary of the Sweet Sea. Pinson and his men sailed up the Amazon for only a short distance. Then they turned around and headed back to the Atlantic. They decided to keep sailing up the coast of South America. There they came upon a native tribe called the Arawaks. Now they got just what they were looking for, treasure. By trading items they had brought with them, Pinson and his crew acquired not just gold, but emeralds and pearls. Pinson was sure to be seen as a hero when he returned home. So there's Pinson and his crew in the Arawaks, trading. He might not have found El Dorado, but his ship was full of riches. However, bad luck struck around as Pinson and his crew headed back to Spain. The ship was caught in a hurricane and sank, all with the treasure. Pinson did make it home, but with only stories to tell of his adventures. It wasn't until 1541 that explorers learned the full length of the Amazon. In that year, Francisco de Orellana set sail from Quito, Ecuador. The city sits high up on the Andes Mountains on the west coast of South America. So here is Quito, Ecuador. Orellana was with a group of conquistadors. Like Pinson, they hoped to discover El Dorado. They were also looking for La Canala, a land filled with trees that produces valuable spices, which were cinnamon. Several years earlier, Orellana had helped Francisco Pizarro conquer the Inca Empire. On this new mission, he was looking for Pizarro's brother Gonzalo. So this is what cinnamon looks like. The Age of Exploration. This is a period in history that began in the early 1400s and lasted through the 1600s. It began where Europeans set off in search of new and faster routes to the Far East, India and China. There they hoped to find riches and treasures. Some explorers set sail so that they could discover more of the world and map new areas. The Portuguese started this period of exploration under Prince Henry the Navigator. But soon the Spanish, Dutch, and English were also sending ships to make claims on the New World. The explorers spent weeks making their way through the dense jungle. Many of the men died from the cold in the mountains or the heat in the rainforest. They were also running out of supplies. Orellana and a group of 50 men were sent to look for food. The men headed down the Napo River, which is in modern-day Ecuador, on a small barge. When Orellana didn't return, Gonzalo Pizarro thought that they had been killed. But Orellana and his men were alive, and the Napo River took them down into the Amazon. So although they did not find the La Canela or El Dorado, they were the first Europeans to come upon the mighty river. The Amazon had a much stronger current than the Napo, and Orellana's group were unable to turn back. Luckily, the men came upon a friendly group of natives in a small village. The natives offered them food and shelter. So here's Orellana's men in the Amazon. Orellana and his men built themselves a larger boat. It was able to withstand the faster, more dangerous waters of the Amazon. For almost 8 months they sailed down the river. Not only did the men have to battle treacherous waters along the way, they were attacked many times by hostile tribes. Orellana and his men claimed that one of these tribes was led by a group of fierce female warriors. It's incredible that men actually lived to tell their tale. So here are the women from the tribe attacking Orellana's men. The conquistadors finally arrived at the Atlantic Ocean on August 26, 1542. Orellana named the river Rio de Orellana after himself. He felt he deserved the honor. Orellana then sailed along the coast to what is now Venezuela, and then back to Spain. On his return, Orellana told the tales of his adventures to the King of Spain. The tales included the story of how Orellana's men had been attacked by women who used clubs and bows and arrows. The king knew the ancient Greek myth of Amazon warrior women, so he proclaimed that from then on the river should be called Amazonas. The king made Orellana the governor of the region. He ordered Orellana to return and conquer it for Spain. Orellana did go back, but in 1546 he fell sick and died as he explored the mouth of the Amazon River. Almost 100 years later, Pedro Teixeira led the next great trip along the Amazon River. Teixeira was from Portugal. He and his men sent by their king. They were also supposed to stop Spain from claiming any more land. So here's Pedro. Teixeira and his men sailed upriver from Belém, near the mouth of the river. The Spanish soldiers told Teixeira and his men let him and his men travel along the river, but they did not like it. The Spanish considered the Amazon theirs. They did not want the Portuguese making claims to land that belonged to them. Teixeira and his crew arrived in Quito, but they got no further. The Spanish authorities held them there for several weeks. In the end, the Spanish had decided to send Teixeira and his crew back the way they came. A group of Spanish priests was sent with them. The priests were not there to listen to the explorers' prayers. They were spies. The priests were to report back on how much of the Amazon had been settled by the Portuguese. Spain and Portugal were determined to claim as much land as possible for themselves in this part of the New World. In 1750, the Spanish finally agreed to Portugal's claim to most of the Amazon River's basin. So here is a picture of Spain, and this is where Portugal claimed their land. The Amazons. According to the ancient Greeks, the Amazons were a race of women warriors who were fierce, proud, and powerful. They were said to be descended from Ares, the god of war, and it was their custom to bring up only female children. Any sons born to the Amazons were either sent away to the neighboring nations or put to death. From childhood, the girls were taught to fight. The bow and arrow and a shield in the shape of a crescent were their weapons. The Amazons also showed great skill as horse tamers and riders. Although there is no proof that this is a race of female warriors actually existed, the legend of the Amazons lived on long after the time of ancient Greeks. So here's an Amazon woman. And that is all for chapter 3. I know it was a really long one today. So, here are my key details for chapter 3. The conquistadors from Spain went and traveled through the Amazon to see what they could claim and find. The age of exploration from the 1400s to 1600s, and the Amazon women. If you guys have any questions, just let me know. I hope you guys have a great day. Bye.